welcome to all of you who have gathered today on Talking Films Online for the discussion of the film this evening, Photo. Talking Films Online, or TFO in short, is an informal coming together of academics, teachers, students, researchers, filmmakers, and cinephiles interested in cinema. More importantly, interested in talking and writing about cinema. The online group came together quite spontaneously during the pandemic and lockdown in June 2020. So there is a context there for the film as well. Dr. Geeta Vishwanath and I have been coordinating the activities of TFO since its inception with people like Sanjay Kumar, Sridhar Modugu, K. Paniraj, Ajanta Sarkar, Murli Krishna, Tarakeshwar VB, Yagnashri, Rasha, Madhurima, Samvarta, and many others who join the weekly discussions and enhance the quality of the discussion. So far, we have organized over 210 online events, which include weekly discussions on a pre-decided film, besides a few month-long film festivals and discussions. For instance, this year in January, we had a Farmers Film Festival, and in March, we had a series of discussions on Kumar Shahani's films as a way of paying tribute to him. Last month, in fact, we had a Kannada movie month where filmmakers like Prithvi Konanur and screenplay writers like Ananta Chandreya joined the discussion. Sometimes, as it has happened today, personnel from the film industry, such as directors, cinematographers, actors, join our weekly discussions. Also, filmmakers make their films available exclusively for TFO members to watch by generously sharing links to their film. And they've also joined in the discussion. We have had directors like Jayant Cherian, Girish Kasarvalli, Adur Gopal Krishnan, Aparna Sen, Anjali Montero, and KP Jayashankar. And today as well, Utsav Gonwar has very generously shared the link to his film with TFO. During June this year, to mark the 4th anniversary of TFO, we had organized the 4th smartphone short film competition for students between 18 to 25 years of age. And we had a grand awards ceremony where the winners of the competition were announced. Recently, on September 30th and October 1st this year, we had the first TFO International Seminar on Indian cinema in the digital era, continuities and discontinuities, in collaboration with FCT Baroda, and this took place in Baroda. Our aim is to get a conversation going around cinema and to get as many people involved in the process as possible. With all our events being online, anyone and everyone interested in cinema is welcome to our forum. We have a blog called talkingfilmsonline.wordpress.com where we encourage all kinds of writings on cinema. We have a YouTube channel called Talking Films Online where you can watch some of our discussion videos. We are on Facebook as well. TFO is a private group on Facebook, and we have a WhatsApp group as well, which is where we share the links, weekly links to the films. In fact, on Facebook, we usually go live. So these are public videos. Anyone can access these videos. Today, for today's discussion on the film Photo, the writer, director, and producer of the film, Utsav Gonwar, has joined us. Utsav is a filmmaker, producer, known for his own production company called Masari Talkies. Sorry, there is an echo. His debut film called Photo, which we have all watched today, marked his entry into the independent cinema space. His latest production, When the Goat Swallowed the Elephant, has garnered acclaim, winning awards at the Bangalore International Film Festival and other prestigious film festivals. Masari Talkies, their third film, Claws and Teeth, directed by Srujan Belli, premiered at Mami Mumbai Film Festival in 2024 in the In Focus South Asia category. Utsav's work consistently showcases a distinctive cinematic voice, combining bold storytelling with striking visuals. The discussion on the film today will be initiated by friend and fellow academic Dr. Ramesh Bairy. Ramesh Bairy T.S. is an associate professor of sociology at the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, Mumbai, and is the author of the book Being Brahmin, Being Modern, Exploring the Lives of Caste Today. His research focuses on the structure of contemporary caste inequalities, the region of Karnataka, and the unfolding forms of injustice.
Please, others, mute yourself.
Oh, sorry, I don't know who. In 2018-19, Ramesh was visiting scholar at Center for Global Studies, University of Victoria, Canada. A very warm welcome to particularly Ramesh Bairy and Utsav Gondwar today. Thank you very much for joining the discussion. And it's now over to you, Ramesh.
Yeah, thanks, Nikhila, for this. Clearly, you have marshaled an impressive 4-year kind of work, and which is up there for people to use. And I think yeah, I think that's a useful archive for ourselves. Um, Hopefully, what I'll have to say today, you know, will mean something. Though I should begin by, stating my own incompetence in doing this work. Neither, I don't do film studies. Um, and I don't even work on the substantive issues that the film focuses on. Therefore, we'll also want to take as little time as possible because many of you here who work on films are scholars of film studies, and Utsav is here. I'm curious as to what you have to say about this film. So that's the initial spiel. Before anything, I would like to congratulate Utsav on what is an excellently done and beautifully crafted film. I loved, and it's taut, it's gripping. Right from the shot of the kid Durga being, it holds your attention despite its very slow pace, and I think that slow pace is intentional and adds much value to the film. The acting is really good, and I can imagine how much work it would have taken Utsav to get that out. Though I noticed that some of them are theater actors, and for Durga to be doing that, his smile, for instance, half a smile, etc., are absolutely something to behold. Also, I think the writing was very good. I loved the language, the dialogues therein. I think very well done. Screenplays, as I was mentioning, is really it's a great ingredient in this, and of course the camera work. This is also important because of the substantive focus of the film. Given that there is so much of data now, particularly after the pandemic, which tells us about the what has been called as the footloose labor, which run into crores, and how little both academic works and works of art have looked at this and given us accounts of that world. I think I think on both these counts, I am really glad that also has done this and placed this before us. I have not seen Bead. Perhaps it would be interesting to see Bead along with this film too. I'm also interested, and I hope Utsav will talk about it, that Gonwara, the village, I think he also comes from that village, is very central. It is the setting of and many of the actors are also from there. It would be, I hope he would talk about, his own relationship with that village, and how that setting becomes important, and using people from that place in order to put this together. I think that would be interesting input to think about. Um, uh, I want to place a few things that I thought were striking. One, of course, uh, the lockdown itself. It's unprecedented on so many counts, and I think it's only even to this day we are trying to make sense of what it really meant and the kind of effects it continues to have. And I am an academic, and the kind of impact that it has had on our own students, and the way, even in fact, the academia is done, the way in which institutions of higher education are also continuing to uh, change in response to what came via that pandemic and lockdown. It's unprecedented, I think, also, and that's something that the film puts together, places before us beautifully. One is in terms of how global our lives have become. That a virus, a disease that could travel the worldwide at such a quick notice, and that could involve all of us. A child like Durga, a migrant laborer like his father, of course, the state and its machinery, the middle class and their own complicities, and their, ways in which they respond to this unprecedented event. But also, I think the other thing that it brought before us is also the unprecedented reach of the state itself. That in a just one go, the government could announce a lockdown and actually, to be able to impose it on us across the country, across locations. Again, the film brings to us very viscerally the kind of effects that it has had. But what is also interesting, and again, the film beautifully does this, is also to place before us very starkly the structural inequalities that continue to be unaddressed, and how a moment like this, the lockdown, places us so differently, in terms of our class divides, in terms of the kind of power that we wield, the agents of the state, the political, the political masters, and as individuals, as people, etc. I think on all these counts, I think it's one of the most visceral ways in which I think the lockdown has been brought to us. I think it's also important that the inequalities are not merely in terms of material inequalities, whether one has a car, but also in terms of informational inequality. Uh, uh, you know, um, when does information reach who? And how does that impact the kind of possibilities that open up before them, which came to us through the pandemic in various kinds of ways. This is again, this has been talked about much before as to how what has been called as the footloose precarious labor all around us. In fact, being in a campus like IIT Bombay, we realized that there were some 800 construction workers who were brought here. Again, this is part of the history of how the footloose labor becomes precarious, that they are not local workers. They were brought from as far as Jharkhand and West Bengal, etc. And we realized that they were staring at starvation, in just 2 days of time because of unpaid wages, because of the fact that their masonries and immediate, contractors, subcontractors couldn't reach them on time. So, and this was happening in Bombay, and one could only imagine, the kind of relationships, and that's again starkly brought out. That happens between the contractor and Durga's father. That happens. So clearly, I think on many of these counts, it's a very poignant illustration um, uh, of particularly people who were at the wrong end of the stick, and increasingly the ways in which the possibilities get eroded, and death becomes perhaps the most insistent kind of a reality that they have to encounter. So it's also in a confusing world, where the right wing political parties win elections on the back of the precarious, but on exactly the people that like Durga and his father, whose life are increasingly being rendered precarious. Recently Trump and the kind of analysis that's coming up about Trump's election victory, and the fact that young Black people and young Latinos would go and vote for. It's a very confusing kind of a time, and we desperately need, at least I desperately need, as to what to, how to make sense of, this world. And therefore, accounts such as these would help me get a more granulated sense of, hopefully, get a more granulated sense of, this world. So clearly, and this is something that I would come back to at the very end of my initial, this intervention, that even as we speak in solidarity with this world, I think it's a very fraught and difficult terrain of that axis of solidarity. How do uh, we present our voice vis-a-vis their voice? I think this film also gets caught up in that difficult kind of a terrain, and again, that's something that I would want to also reflect upon. While when I say we, the progressive, perhaps middle class, with access to certain kinds of capitals that are clearly not available to Durga and his family, how do we speak in solidarity, vis-a-vis that world? And even as we desperately seek accounts of that world, I think, again, that's a problem that I thought was very significant here. But as I said, I'll come back to this again in a bit. Um, Again, Nikhila said that she thought of me because she wants a sociological take on this. But I am hesitant to give a sociological take on this because that's an easy kind of a thing, because particularly in the last 4 or 5 years. But even before that, there is now significant amount of scholarship on this kind of labor, which is footloose, and which is called a circular kind of a labor, which finds itself in different locations through the course of a year, and increasingly rendered precarious, in the context of the backtracking of the state and its labor protections, the regimes of a certain neoliberal ways in which capital is being made free floating, etc., etc. So one could go on endlessly about how structural inequalities are foundational to this, and how the account is of structural inequality, because it's no longer, again, something that the film beautifully brings before us, that it's no longer, it's never a case of, individual goodwill, that I might be a good person, I might be a bad person, but the ways in which, for instance, particularly the police, and particularly how one gets caught up in this a certain global phenomenon over which we, no matter where we are placed in the hierarchy of capitals, we are nowhere the masters of the narrative. So I was imagining the ways in which we responded to this COVID in the first few months of the pandemic, towards and compare it with later on when we had a measure of things, perhaps when we had a sense that that kind of a response was perhaps not necessary at all, and at what cost and to whom, etc. But when it was unfolding, clearly nobody was in control. So that's the way, a way in which it needs to be rendered primarily in terms of structural violence, and of course there is a case to be made for that. But I want to get to the film on its own terms, and the ways in which the film is not a sociological text, and what do we do with that. Again, I'm completely way out of my depth in getting to that. I would want scholars of film to come in majorly, but I thought and there was something interesting here, and I would just throw two or three things at you and end this. One, this fascination with Vidhan Sauda in 2024, and I found that utterly fascinating, and I'm trying to think of how Utsav arrived at this, because in 1969 is when Annaru Rajkumar made this film, or he wrote the film Mayor Muthana. And Bangalore is very central to that imagination. He is forced to run away from his village, comes to Bangalore. But then he comes again with absolutely no contact. Some of the initial ways in which he makes sense of Bangalore are utterly striking in that film. The terrain of that film, the trajectory of the film finally ends up in him, making the city his own, and he becomes a mayor. And there is a certain triumphalism of both the nationalist and also the developmentalist kind of a thing. So if we were to, 55 years later, to think of Durga as Mutarna of our times. How does one, I think it would be interesting to read those two films together in order to think within the Kannada filmic imagination itself, what does a city mean? Again, I'm really surprised that Vedant Sauda continues to have that kind of an aspirational, kind of a metaphorical kind of an imaginary for a child growing up in Muskie, and and assaulted by Vidhan Sauda in his own house, in the neighbor's house, in the classroom, etc. I think that would be an interesting thing to think of. Because one of the things that the film clearly shows, unlike, again, I think that's why the contrast with Mayor Mutana is interesting. While for Rajkumar, the developmentalist kind of an aspiration and hope translates into this right to the city and realizing right to the city. So for somebody like Durga and his father, because they are caught up in radically different kinds of worlds, they are, there is no utopia that, even as there is a desire for that, they are increasingly caught up in a tragically, over-determined kind of a world where clearly death appears to be the only certainty, etc., as we saw time and again through the course of the pandemic. But I think again that would be interesting. Again, I think it's interesting to last 30 years of the Kannada film world has gone past me. Clearly, it's interesting that for Durga, Vidhan Saudha is, of course, very important. But D-Boss is also very important. That again, I think was very, I would want Utsav if he has, things to say about that. I was thinking of Valai, recent film, Tamil film, where again kids in a village, bicker over Kamala Hassan and Rajnikant, and what does film mean, etc. could again be interesting to think about. The other thing I thought was interesting, again, this is something that could be way beyond what any of you had thought. By some of my own reading of the film, Durga's family appears to be Dalit, or at least a discriminated caste community, because of the way Kakka goes and confronts the dominant caste man, asking, "Will you beat me? Your father's time is no longer the time," etc., etc., which could again be an indication of Dalit assertion, etc., etc. But then I think there is a striking parallel that I thought of when Durga pulls the chair of the teacher in order to get a closer, intimate look at the or the picture photograph of Vedant Sauda in his classroom. Arvind Malgatti, a Kannada literature, has this autobiography called Government Brahmana, and in his initial chapters, he talks about how on the board his name was written wrongly, and he dares to pull the chair of the teacher and tries to correct that, to write his name correctly, and the teacher comes and is absolutely infuriated that clearly a boundary of pollution has been breached. The teacher's chair has been taken, and the Dalit kid is standing on it. So again, if one were to think of, like, if Mutanna were to be Durga today, if Arvind Malgatti were to be Durga today, what has changed, and how does one think about representations of the Dalit subject itself in these kind of circumstances? I thought was be interesting to. So finally, I had said that I'll come back to the axis of solidarity and the difficult terrain that all of us, and clearly there are no ready-made ways in which we can think about it, and I can see how Utsav and the entire team struggles with that. This axis of solidarity is, um, how do we say where we belong in this, what I've called structural violence, structural inequality, etc., etc. So I thought, clearly the eye of the camera is mostly the eye of the child, and also the eye of the father, two significant ways in which where I think the density of that world that they are part of, the life world that they are part of, which does not make easy resolutions of us versus them all along. Clearly the representative of the state, the police, the insistent everyday representative of the state for people like Durga's father is the policeman. But the two accounts of the police that we are shown tells us that it's not an easy binary of the oppressor and the oppressed. Clearly, there is a there are those two policemen who would put him in a car as against the border surveilling the police group, or the ones who ask them to go back home because there is a Janata curfew, etc., etc. So they are able to work with a certain granular idea of the world. And therefore, that world is itself rife with possibilities, even though for a sociologist like me, when I'm zooming out, the structural violence appears to be over-determining all these possibilities that are there. But for them, caught up in that world, they are willing to work with all these possibilities, and perhaps the zoomed out is not the way. And the film, to a great extent, work with that, what appears to be and I think that's why, there is only one or two zoomed out camera angles in this film. It's always very intimate, very, very, focused, very narrow kind of a thing, which is, I think, which works very well for what is being said. This is where I think the difficulty of um, our relationship with the world that we seek solidarity with, and are anxious to express solidarity with, comes up because um, I wish, again, that other thing that I wanted to say about the granularity of that eye of the child and the father is also comes up when they also recognize that us is also not one homogeneous kind of a group, which again came up massively during the pandemic, the kind of which comes up, when this other worker who is on the way home runs to deny a TVS 50 ride for this family who for this father and son who clearly need that ride perhaps more than that chap. So clearly, there is more textured kind of an imagination. But I think the difficulty is that there are very many places in which where the film refuses to let the eye of the father and the child be the predominant eye of the film. Because our anxiety to leave no one in doubt as to where we belong. And even as I say this, as I've said time and again, I recognize this to be very, very difficult kind of a terrain. How does that subaltern speak? Whether the subaltern is able to speak at all, etc., have been a concern for a long time now. If you look at very many things that come up, continuous spot shots at the right wing, with which, of course, we have very good reason to be, more than unhappy with the government, with the powers that be, with the privilege like ourselves. For instance, I love this youth, the young man who is very, very, who has this exuberance about, shooting a video and putting it up. And I love the language, the use of language. The dialogues are beautifully written in that particular bit. But then, that immediate translation of that into a certain laughable kind of a thing is, I thought, and the last song, the song while the credits are on, which talks about Vishwaguru and how even as we are putting Baileys around us, fences around us, we are claiming to be Vishwaguru. I really wish that the film had not gotten onto that, had left the voice and the eye of the child and the father to end the film with. That's what I thought was useful and interesting. Sorry, I said I will not take much time, but I'm a teacher, I'm given to this. So I hope there was something that you could, if Utsav wants to come in and respond. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ramesha, for laying out so many issues. You said a film is not your area of specialization. Well, it's nobody's area of specialization. We all say what we want to say from our own perspectives. But you have thrown open a number of issues today. I think we can pick up many strands for our discussion right now. But before I open it out to others, Utsav, anything to respond after listening to Ramesh, or do you want to wait?
ನಂಗೆ ಕೊನೆಯದು ಅದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವುದು ಹಾಡಿನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಕಾರಲ್ಲಾಗೋ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಜೇಷನ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಒಮ್ಮೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾರ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕಾಗತ್ತಾ? ನಂಗೆ ಅದು ಒಂಚೂರು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ.
ಸಾರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸಾಲಿಡ್ಯಾರಿಟಿ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಯಾರ ಪರ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ, ಯಾರ ಪರ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಈ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ರೆಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತಿದೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ನೋ ಹೌ ಯು ಚೂಸ್ ದ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್. ಅಂಡ್ ಸೊ ನನ್ಗೇನ್ ಅನ್ಸ್ತಂದ್ರೆ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ಲಿ ಥ್ರೂಔಟ್ ದ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಆ ದುರ್ಗ್ಯ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಜಗತ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತಾನೆ, ದುರ್ಗ್ಯನ ಅಪ್ಪ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಜಗತ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಅದು ಅಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೆಮ್ ಅನ್ನುವಂತ ಈಸಿ ಆದಂತ ಬೈನರಿ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಳಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲಿಕೇಟೆಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಪೊಲೀಸ್ನ ನೀವು ತೋರ್ಸೋ ರೀತಿ ಕೂಡ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಈ ಯಾರೋ ಒಂದ್ ಮಿಡಲ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಎಕ್ಸೆಟ್ರಾ ಎಕ್ಸೆಟ್ರಾ. ಬಟ್ ನನ್ಗೆ ಅದು ನಂಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಯ್ತು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರ ಮೂಲಕ ಈ ಜಗತ್ನ ನೋಡೋದು ಯಾವ ತರ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮ್ಗ್ ಕಷ್ಟ. ನಾವು ಆ ಜಗತ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ನೋಡೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡೋದು ತುಂಬಾ ಕಷ್ಟ. ಅದು ನೀವು ಬಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎ ಲಾಂಗ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಎಂಡ್ ಅಪ್ ಅಚೀವಿಂಗ್, ಅಂಡ್ ದಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಅಚೀವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ವಾಸ್ ಟ್ರೈಂಗ್ ಟು ಸೇ. ಬಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಆಂಗ್ಸೈಟಿ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಎನಫ್ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ಇನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಕ್ಲಾರಿಫೈ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತ. ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾವ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀವಿ, ನಾವ್ ಇವ್ರ ಪರವಾಗಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸೋದು. ಸೊ ನನಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ಫಾರ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ರಿಂಗ್ ಟೋನ್ಸ್ ನ ನೀವು ಪರ್ಪಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಹಾಕಿದೀರಾ. ಕೂಲಿ ಅಂತಾರೆ, ಅದೊಂದಿದೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ಅವನು ಅವ್ರೊಬ್ರು ಇರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ ಆ ಗುಂಪ್ನಲ್ಲಿ, ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಅಜ್ಜ, ದಿ ಎಲ್ಡರ್ಲಿ ಜೆಂಟಲ್ಮನ್, ಇಫ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಮುಸ್ಲಿಂ ಬೈ ದ ಲುಕ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಫೇಸ್, ಲುಕ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಎ ಮುಸ್ಲಿಂ. ಅವ್ರ ರಿಂಗ್ ಟೋನು ಧರ್ಮ ಮಧ್ಯ ಜಗಳ ತರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತೇನೋ ಒಂದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಈ ಹುಡ್ಗ ನಂಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗಿದ್ದದು. ಈ ಹುಡ್ಗ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ. ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ಲಿ ಪೊಲೀಸ್ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಪರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪ್ಸ್, ಬಟ್ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ. ಬಟ್ ಅವನು ಅದ್ರೊಳಗೆ ಅದನ್ನೊಂದು ಅಪಾರ್ಚುನಿಟಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಕೊನೆಗೊಂದು ಹಾಡಿದೆ. ಈ 4 ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಸ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರಿಡಾಮಿನೆಂಟ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ನಿಮ್ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಆಂಗ್ಸೈಟಿ ಟು ಟೆಲ್ ದ ವ್ಯೂವರ್ ದಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಆನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಸೈಡ್, ಐ ಆಮ್ ನಾಟ್ ಆನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಸೈಡ್. ಸೊ ಒಂದ್ ಈಸಿ ರೆಸಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ, ಆ ಮಗುಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ, ಅವ್ರ ಅಪ್ಪನ್ಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ, ಅವ್ರ ಅದನ್ನ ಈ ತರದ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ರ ಅಂತ ನನ್ಗೆ ಅನ್ಸಕ್ ಶುರುವಾಯ್ತು ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ದಾಗ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ವಾಸ್ ಟ್ರೈಂಗ್.
ಓಕೆ.
So Utsav, you want to wait or you want to respond ಇವಾಗ?
ಇಲ್ಲ ವೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
Okay. So it's open for discussion. Anyone who wants to come in right away, you're most welcome.
Can I, Nikhila?
Yes, Geeta, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Ramesh, for that excellent introduction to the film. I really enjoyed that. And I had a question for Utsav, and that is whether, he is deeply influenced by Iranian cinema. Because, barely half an hour into the film, and I felt that it seems like, there is this influence of Iranian cinema in the sense that the child is the protagonist, the worldview, we see the world through the child, and also the child lives in a very, complex world where the relationships with others and the state is all very complicated. And at the same time, there is that sense of wonder, which is, of course, so typical of childhood. And you have already spoken about the significance of Vidhan Sauda. And that also struck me. And I thought that the Vidhan Sauda is such a powerful symbol of the state. And it is ironical that it is that state itself which did not let the child see the building, something that he really yearned for. So, these are some of the things that really struck me about the film. Thank you, Utsav, for that lovely film.
Okay, thanks, Geeta. Maybe Utsav will respond to all the questions in the end. Before I open it out, I thought I'll share my views, my responses to the film. There were a few very interesting moments, shots in the film. Where in some ways they are kind of denying us, or if not denying, I should say, going against our expectations. For instance, right at the outset, when the child is insisting, the mother is going around, when Durga is insisting, the mother is going around her household task as if she does not care at all for the child. And the child, and Durga puts his head down and sits forlorn on the jagli, and we see the mother then slowly, just before she moves out of our sight, we see her look back, and then we know that she has actually taken cognizance of not only the child but also his deep desire. So till then, till that moment, it's almost as if she's impervious to the child's insistence, and suddenly we kind of get to see, though Durga himself does not know about his the change in his mother's attitude towards his going. I thought that shot where as viewers we are let in on the information before Durga is, I thought that was very interesting. The second interesting moment for me was that long, that long take in long shot where we see the father move from one end of the screen to the other. And then we wonder. So for me, that was a moment which foreshadowed the demise of Durga, because even as the father is moving out of the frame, Durga is nowhere in the frame. So I kept waiting and waiting and wondering, where is Durga? So what has happened to him, and how come the father is not looking back? How come, he's just walking ahead? So again, kind of playing with our expectations, making us wait. And then it's almost a relief when Durga actually enters the frame and he too goes from one end of the screen to the other. And then this moment where, the father sights a tree and he runs towards it. And till the moment he reaches the tree and calls out, looks back, he has not noticed what has happened to Durga, and we don't know what has happened. And then we hear him shouting his name. Again, at that moment, the way, the shots are organized, which generally when a character looks out of the frame, we expect to be shown what he is looking at. So we expect a point of view shot, but that is not forthcoming. So till the father actually walks back to where Durga is, we don't know what has happened. So this way of playing with our expectations in shots, I thought that is such a remarkable feature of this film, making us guess, giving us some information, withholding some information at some other moments. This is done, wonderfully well, I thought, in the film. It reminded me of two other films. One, Mansoure's Haribu, again a father-son duo who go to Bangalore with devastating consequences. The son dies and so on. Different, but also, as I was beginning to watch, it reminded me of Haribu. And later, as the father and son go along the harsh landscape, I was thinking of Adu Jeevitam. But of course, it's not about this man's brave struggle to overcome harsh nature. We know how it ends in this film. And like Ramesh, I thought the last song was an attempt to interpret what we had seen so far. So till then, it's almost as if it's presenting, merely presenting things to us. But through the song, it's a lovely song. But through the song, it is, I like the lyrics as well, but it's trying to interpret, as it were, what we had seen in the film. And I thought Ramesh, I agree with Ramesh on that. Yeah, so these are some of my thoughts on the film. Anyone who is ready, who wants to share their response to the film, most welcome. Please unmute yourself so I know that you want to speak. Murali Krishna sir, yes, please go ahead.
Good evening, all. Yes, Dr. Ramesh has presented his views in a very lucid manner, and he has brought out the sociological aspects of the film. And congratulations to Utsav Ganawar also. I had seen that film in the BFS last year and also wrote about it. Anyway, the film is an indictment or a sharp critique on the dystopian times we are living in, especially regarding the Corona period. Of course, Dr. Ramesh has rightly pointed out the intervention of the state, how it intervened and all those things. I will not go into that. But continuing with the shots referred by Professor Nikila, and I was also there are some shots in the film which cornered my attention. So I will say something about them. Now there is one shot where Durga sees the photo of the Vidhan Soda. In it, there is a sentence. the government's work is God's work. And then Durga turns and sees the viewers, that is the breaking the fourth wall. That shot cornered my attention. Then, as you know, Durga accompanies his father to the Vidhan Soda. They will be walking on a road where two constables confront them. They tell them that you should not go further. Then while coming back, both the son and the father slowly walk away, tread along the path. And we see 5 cars in that road. Means a lot. Then, as rightly pointed out by Dr. Ramesh, we see the other side of the police functioning also, or their outlook towards those who have been affected by the pandemic. Now, in the tempo, when this father-son duo are traveling, Durga shoots a question at his father. He asks, how long or at what distance Vidhan Soda is there for them to reach. Now, the father actually lies about it. That is, he says that it comes in a short period of time. Then after some time, after a few moments, Durga asked the same question to an elderly person sitting beside him. When he asks that, the elderly man says that it has gone long, long back. And he smiles after saying this. Now, Durga, without uttering any word, silently looks at his father. It means a lot for me. It meant a lot for me. Now, in that tempo in which the father and the son duo are traveling, we see a shot wherein Durga sees the viewers, again breaking the fourth wall shot from the torn tarpaul or the cover of the tempo. Then in one shot in Bangalore, when the construction of the building is going on during the lockdown period, we see the father and son eating along with the 4-5 other laborers. Then in one shot, when Durga gets ready to visit Vidhan Soda along with his father, we see him wearing a cooling glass, or what you call goggles. But nowhere else we see him wearing the goggles again in that cinema. That's only one shot. If my observation is right, it's only one shot we see Durga wearing the goggles. Now in Durga's village, we see his his mother's uncle, Kaka, sitting and sleeping and on the cot. And there are some shots wherein he speaks. Okay, but we see the ladies sitting only on the floor, doing their own course and speaking speaking among themselves and addressing the Kaka. And I think Utsav has very, very, in a way, symbolizes the difference in the, the gender status of the family there, the family life there. And in I think in 2 shots, we see the cylinders, the empty cylinders. Empty cylinders not being used in a disused position. And that is an indictment of the Ujjwala scheme, I thought. Or am I overreading it? I don't know. Utsav is there. I think he can clarify. Yeah. I think the last shot we know it, wherein Durga's mother tears away, tears away the photo of the Vidhan Soda. And these are some of the shots which impressed me as a cinephile. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else who wants to come in now? Yes, Shreyas Pandey, please go ahead.
Hi. So, while Murli sir was saying about how the film has this constant image of the assembly, the Karnataka assembly, the Vidhan Soda, um, I found that the film is in some way representative of how the citizen shares the relationship with the state, which of which the assembly is a symbol. And so the kid, he wants to go and see the assembly. And in some way, many citizens uh, are distant from their own assemblies, which hosts leaders which are elected by them. And he's not able to reach that place, and he keeps asking his father, ki, kitna, how far is it? And so that was that constant strife to reach that place. And that place feels like a mythical place which is not accessible to the common public. That was quite elucidating for me while I was seeing the film. And apart from that, what I really found interesting, and this is I think, a very small detail, uh, his mother is shown washing utensils, I think 3 times in the film. And that means quite a lot when seen through the context of what is happening in the film. So in the beginning, we see her washing utensils and she's quite engrossed in it. And at that time, everything is fine in the family. Later in the middle, when the son and the father is stuck and is trying to come back, we again see her with the utensils, but now she's not as engrossed. She is lost somewhere. Again, in the end, we see her doing the utensils, and now again she's engrossed because she knows that they will come back. And just then, everything falls apart again. So I just found these small, everyday details quite something in the film. Yeah, like those are my short thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shreyas. Anyone else who wants to come in now? Fabian? Anyone else? Actually, I found it interesting that, and I don't know, maybe Utsav can tell us, when they are in the hospital, the father reveals a detail which we are not again privy to in the film, that Durga had actually told him that he has fever, and he had asked him to feel his forehead repeatedly, and the father had ignored it. So we have not been told any of this. So when he actually collapses, it's a huge surprise to us, and something that we come to know only later. So maybe Utsav can tell us about, again, why he was withholding, the narrative is withholding this information from us. Is it meant to come as a shock, as it does when the death happens?
ಅದು ನನಗೆ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ನೆಟ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ, ಒಮ್ಮೆ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ?
And no, I was saying we are not given the information about the son's illness. ದುರ್ಗಾಗೆ ಜ್ವರ ಬಂದಿದೆ, ಅವನು ಅವ್ರ ತಂದೆಗೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಮುಂಚೆ ಹೇಳಿದಾನೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಗೆ, ಯಾವಾಗ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳೋವರೆಗೂ. ಸೊ ಟಿಲ್ ಹಿ ಟೆಲ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಟು ಹಿಸ್ ಕಾಕಾ, we don't know that the son has actually told him, Durga has actually told his father that he has fever, and that he, and the father, he's asked the father to feel him, and so on. So I was just wondering, how come you were, the narrative is kind of withholding that information from us? Is it to intensify the shock of his death, when it happens? Yeah, so that was just a thought. Anyone else who wants to come in, please unmute yourselves. Utsav, while people are gathering their thoughts, if you want to respond to anything that has been said so far, maybe you can come in now, and then there will be more comments and responses later. ಏನಾದ್ರು ಹೇಳೋದಿದ್ಯಾ?
ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದಲ್ಲ ಈಗ?
You can respond. So
Okay.
ಏನಾದ್ರು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳು ಬಂತಲ್ಲ ಇದುವರೆಗೂ, ಕಾಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ, ಯಾವ್ದಕ್ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ನೀವು ರೆಸ್ಪಾಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು.
ಓಕೆ. ಗೀತಾ ಅವ್ರು ಕೇಳಿದ್ದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇರಾನಿಯಿಂದ ಇನ್ಫ್ಲುಯೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರೋ ಅನ್ನೋ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಮೇಡಮ್?
Yes. Iranian cinema.
Yes.
What is it?
Yes. That was my question.
Okay. So ನಾನು ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾಗಳನ್ನ, ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆದು ಸಿನಿಮಾಗಳು ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ನನಗ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಟೇಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಚೆರ್ರಿ ಅದು ತುಂಬಾ ಇನ್ಫ್ಲುಯೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಿದೆ. ವಿಜುವಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ತೋರಿಸಿರೋದು ಮೇ ಬಿ ಅದು ಆಗಿರೋ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆಗಳಿದೆ. ತುಂಬಾ ಸಿನಿಮಾಗಳನ್ನು ನೋಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಾವು ಅದಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾಗಳನ್ನ ನೋಡೋದು ಅದ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ದಂಗ ಕೂಡ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಒಮ್ಮೊಮ್ಮೆ ನಾವು ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ದು ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಸಾರಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ನನ್ಗೆ ಅದು ಆಗಿದೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಇನ್ಫ್ಲುಯೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಇದು ಯಾವ್ದು ಬೈಸಿಕಲ್ ಥೀವ್ಸ್, ಅದು ನನಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಕಾಡಿದ ಸಿನಿಮಾ. ಅದು ಕೂಡ ನನ್ಗೆ ಇನ್ಫ್ಲುಯೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಅದು ಮೇ ಬಿ ಅದಾಗಿದೆ, ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ದು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ದ ಅದೊಂಥರ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ನನಗೆ. ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಭಾಷೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗತ್ತಾ, ಅಥವಾ ನಾನು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಕ್ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾ?
ಬೇಡ, ಗೊತ್ತಾಗತ್ತೆ.
Geeta will understand, but there are others. Even if you speak in Kannada, it's okay. ನಾನು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಆಮೇಲೆ.
ಅದೇ ನಾನ್ ಕಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ.
ಬೇಡ, ನೀವು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿ, ನಾನು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ತೊಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ.
ಮತ್ತು ಇಲ್ಲೊಬ್ರು ಸರ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಉಜ್ವಲ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್, ಅದು ಸಿಲಿಂಡರ್ ಉಲ್ಟಾ ಇಟ್ಟಿರೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಅದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಇವಾಗ ನಾವು ಗೋನ್ವಾರ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸರ್, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಲಿಂಡರ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ಬಳಸದೇ ಇರೋದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸುಮಾರು ಕಡೆ ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು, ಸುಮಾರು ಮನೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಸಿಲಿಂಡರ್ ಸಿಕ್ತು ನಮಗೆ, ಬಟ್ ಫಿಲ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗದೆ ಇರೋ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಒಂದಿದೆ. ಮತ್ತ ಅದು ಸಿಲಿಂಡರ್ ಗಳು ಹಂಗೆ ಇದೆ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಫಿಲ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಆಗದಿರೋ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಇದೆ ಅದು. ಮತ್ ನಾ ಗೋನ್ವಾರ್ ಅಂತ ತೋರ್ಸ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ, ಗೋನ್ವಾರ್ ಕತೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಆ ವಿಷಯನ್ನ ಹೇಳಲೇಬೇಕಾಯ್ತು ಬಂತು. ಅದು ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಹಂಗೆ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು. ಮತ್ ಸಿನಿಮಾನೇ ನಾನು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದು ಡಾಕ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು ವಿಷಯಗಳು ಅನ್ನೋ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅದು ಆ ಡಾಕ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ ಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡಿದೆ ಆ ವಿಷಯ. ಮತ್ತೆ ದುರ್ಗೇನ್ಗೆ ಜ್ವರ ಬಂದಿದ್ದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದೇ ಸುಸ್ತಾಗಿರೋದನ್ನ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹಂಗೆ ಹೋಲ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ, ನಾನು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಂಚೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವನಿಗೆ ವಾಮಿಟ್ ಆಗೋದು, ಮತ್ತೆ ಅವನ ತಂದೆ ಅವನಿಗೆ ತಣ್ಣೀರ್ ಬಟ್ಟೆನ ಹಣೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಹಾಕಿ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾನು ಆತರ ಮುಂಚೆನೆ ಒಮ್ಮೆ ಇವನಿಗೆ ಸುಸ್ತಾಗಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ, ಹುಷಾರಿಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮುಚ್ಚಿಟ್ಟು ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಆ ತರದ್ದು ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಇಂಟೆನ್ಷನ್ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ. ಅದೊಂದು ವಿಷಯ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಆ ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಬರೋ ಹಾಡಿನ ವಿಷಯ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ, ನನಗೆ ಈ ವಿಷಯ ಡಾಕ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನದ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಮೇ ಬಿ ನನಗೊಂದೇನೋ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ನನಗೂ ಒಂದೇನೋ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಿತ್ತೇನೋ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನನ್ಗೆ ಓಕೆ, ಕೊನೆ ಹಾಡು ನನಗೊಂದು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ನಾನ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ನಾನ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡಿದೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಆ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಯಾಕೆ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನೇ ಮಾಡಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಾನ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡಿದೀನಿ ಅನ್ನೋ ಇದನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ದೇನೂ ಇರಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಈ ವಿಷಯಗಳನ್ನ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಇಷ್ಟು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮಾಡಿದ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಮತ್ ನನಗೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ಬಾರ್ದು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿ ಆ ವಿಷಯಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ಬಾರ್ದು ಅನ್ನೋದೇನ್ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಅದು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ ನಾನು ಆ ಸಿನಿಮಾದಲ್ಲಿ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ಬರೋ ಹಾಡುಗಳು ಅದು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ, ಅದು ಆ ವಿಷಯಗಳು. ಆ ಹಾಡು ಮೇ ಬಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಿಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವ್ದು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕ, ಧರ್ಮಕ್ಕೂ ಕರ್ಮಕ್ಕೂ ಜಗಳ, ಅದು ಬೇರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಜನಪದ, ಯಾವ್ದು ಭಜನೆ ಪದ ಅಂತ ತುಂಬಾ ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ ಅದನ್ನ ರಿಪೀಟೆಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ವಿ ಅನ್ನೋ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಬಳಸಿದ್ದೆ ನಾನು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಆ ಕೂಲಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಕೂಡ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದೇ ಮತ್ತೊಂದು ಬೇರೆ ಏನ್ ನನ್ಗೆ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡೆ ಆ ಹಾಡ್ನ ಬಳಸಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಅದು ಆ ಒಂದು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ನಾವ್ ಯಾವ್ದಕ್ ಸೇರಿದೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಕ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತು ನನಗೆ. ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಆ ಹಾಡಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ
Okay, sorry, no problem. Just a quick summary of Geeta's question. Was there the influence of Iranian cinema? Utsav said yes. He was particularly influenced by Taste of Cherry, but also Bicycle Thieves. He says that there might have been, traces of these films in photo. With respect to the gas cylinder, he says since he was thinking of his film more as a document of the times, he wanted to indicate how the cylinders, how there is a situation where people don't have the ability to fill the cylinders. So it's as simple as that. They cannot afford to buy new refills. He said that there were indications of his fever, so there was not really an attempt at withholding that information. With respect to the song, particularly the last song, he said that it was an intervention coming from the director, a kind of statement as to why he had made the film. Other songs coming in the form of ringtones were indicative of, for instance, belonging, what class the character comes from and so on. Fabian, you've unmuted. Please go ahead.
Do you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I really enjoy this film. The director is very talented. Actors, and especially the photo and the movements, the frames. When I was looking at that film, I was always thinking, where does he put the camera here? I was evaluating the position of the camera, and the position of the camera is always right. It's always on the good position. For example, when the camera is taking picture of the child, the camera is down on earth. I think the position of the camera is something really very interesting in this film, and it's a very powerful document on what happened to the world during the corona, the hypocrisy of the people, the selfishness of the people. I mean, one of the scenes that really shocked me, and I thought it was so right and so heartbreaking. It was the scene when the guy makes a selfie with him, with the father and the child. He makes a photo, and he says something like, they also are humans in his selfie. This is so cruel. This is, and it is also a sign of our times with the social media, you know, just to show how good he is. In fact, it's total hypocrisy. Is one of the most cruel character on the film, and he's the one who pretends to be to do good and to be good. And I thought that was so right, because so universal. We saw that during the corona in all the countries. Some people who pretend to help, and that were really selfish and cruel. So I thought it was it's a great film. Really, thank you. I really enjoyed, and I would look at it again, because I think there is many layers, and I really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Fabian. Anyone else who wants to come in? Samvartha has written about the film. Shrikant says he has seen the film earlier. Anything to say, Shrikant, Samvartha, Paniraj sir? Yes, Samvartha, please go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, because there is a repeated mention of that particular scene. Which Fabian also mentioned, which Murli sir also mentioned, and also Ramesh Bairy sir also actually mentioned about the man who actually kind of makes a video of these father and son, and as Fabian rightly pointed out, it's extremely cruel. Because he just doesn't make a video. He also says, remove the buttons of your shirt so that actually they may look actually what to say, pitiable, miserable. That actually is, is very cruel. But where actually, that scene, really stood out for me, and actually kind of, it became such a, I think, my admiration, my love, my everything for Utsav actually kind of multiplied in that particular scene, because uh, it's not just actually kind of see. The father and the son. When the man, whoever that boy is. He says that, take, remove the button. Crumble your. Make. Undo the. Crumble your hair a bit so that they look. Miserable. So when all of that is happening, it's only that man's cell phone camera which actually kind of captures them. Utsav's camera doesn't capture them. Utsav's camera doesn't actually kind of show them in a pitiable, miserable condition. It's only that man who shows. So Utsav clearly actually kind of keeps them out when they're actually kind of being forced to actually kind of look, in that particular, dehumanized way. Okay. So, so that politics, that's political aesthetics. It's brilliant. How he actually kind of keeps them out, and that man actually kind of captures him, the two of them. It's really brilliant. And also, the politics of camera. The way he actually composed. Quite a bit has been said. Just to bring in something which I've already written, which is available there, out there. The way actually kind of, he uses. As they start walking. Initially there are close-ups, then there are long shots. The landscape actually kind of starts becoming, and in the end, he actually kind of, goes for aerial shots. I mean, in the narrative itself, the story has transitioned to a point where actually their lives have been reduced to dust. That's when he actually kind of uses the aerial shot, where they really look like, they're nothing. They're just nothing. That's how they actually kind of start appearing because of the aerial shot that is used. And he uses it only at a particular point in the narrative. And that's what actually kind of, it's a clever, and it's not just a clever use of the camera, but also a very wise understanding of what a shot can do and what meaning it can actually kind of bring in, what emotions it can invoke. All these things actually kind of, he has employed it so meaningfully. It's not just, okay, drone mil gaya, chalo udate hain. It's not that. It has to be it has to come in as a meaningful actually kind of what's tool in the film. That's how he uses it, and that's really brilliant, and it's remarkable. And not just that, even actually, the way, of course, Murali sir mentioned about, how the women are always sitting on the floor, and uh, the character played by Jahangir is, I mean, almost lying on the bed and all of that. Even that one scene where actually, I mean, the same character, Kaka, I mean, Jahangir, who played by Jahangir, I mean, there he and his son, they are watching the TV, and there is a news that actually about, okay, I mean, they are fencing the village and they're not going to let people come in. Uh, all of, uh, okay, okay. So, I mean, so it's very interesting. It actually kind of speaks about what is, I mean, the feudal politics and also the caste politics of in that particular village. And Utsav's sensibility is such that, I mean, when this conversation between the father and son, Jahangir, I mean, Kaka and his son is happening, there is a sound of the wife actually kind of preparing roti. So it's the politics is not only feudal and caste, class and caste, it's also gender. And Utsav doesn't actually kind of shy away from actually kind of showing these different layers of actually kind of what is, I mean, politics. I mean, it's gender, I mean, caste, class. I mean, all of this actually kind of he brings in. That's where I think he actually kind of goes beyond, I mean, a certain, uh, uh, I mean, something which actually kind of a lot of filmmakers seem to have actually kind of internalized, I mean, off late. And I mean, personally, I mean, no offense, anyone. I'm just being a bit provocative and also being a bit honest. I think, I mean, largely, I mean, academicians and activists are to be blamed for that. Where actually, kind of, I mean, artists have actually kind of internalized a lot of what is, I mean, a pressure for political correctness, and that's something Ramesh Bairy sir actually kind of mentioned. And I mean, I thought it was, I mean, it's very necessary statement to be made. And as a result of, I mean, this political correctness, what has happened is artists have started engaging more with social science than with society. And artists has to engage more with society, not with social science as much as they're doing, I mean, at this point of time. And I think Utsav is actually kind of really actually kind of, I mean, has done that. And that's why probably, I mean, what Ramesh sir was saying, that, you know, the complexity of society. I mean, yes, I mean, it's, I mean, the police also can be good. And I mean, there is, of course, I mean, this is not actually kind of, I mean, put a blindfold to all the other things. So, I mean, this, I mean, the complexity of things will actually kind of come across in a much, what is, I mean, clear manner when artist actually kind of, what is, I mean, meets eye to eye with society, not with social science. Social science will actually kind of give you jargons. And when it's made through jargons, it becomes totally something else. And that's where actually kind of Utsav really actually kind of excels. And I mean, I personally like this film so much because of that. Because it's actually kind of not, I mean, trying to actually kind of being politically correct. It's trying to be, I mean, it is politically conscious. It's not even trying to be politically conscious. It is politically conscious. And political consciousness is more important than political correctness. I mean, that's something which, I mean, I repeated. And I mean, that's also one of the things over here. As I was watching this film for the first time, I still remember what I really actually, that's a temptation even I couldn't have actually kind of resisted. But Utsav does that. When these, I mean, people with a saffron shawl actually kind of, I mean, take a march, go Corona. I mean, it's hilarious. It's stupid. I don't know what to call it also. I mean, any filmmaker or any person, I mean, including me, I would have been tempted to actually kind of ridicule that act of go Corona, go. Utsav doesn't do that. That's the thing. I mean, he could have ridiculed it. I mean, that would have actually kind of completely, I mean, changed the texture of the film itself. I mean, everything. He doesn't actually kind of, I mean, not actually kind of, doesn't actually kind of shy away from, I mean, looking at that. He looks at it, but doesn't ridicule that. There actually kind of, he's actually kind of excelling. I mean, that's really remarkable. I mean, this entire thing. And the other thing, I mean, because actually Ramesh sir actually kind of mentioned about Bheed. I mean, again, that's the thing. I mean, Bheed, I mean, it's trying to be politically correct. And it's hence it's very flat. I mean, to me, I mean, it's extremely predictable, and it doesn't add anything to what I already know, nor does it actually kind of give me an experience of what it could have been like. I mean, while Utsav, I mean, the film photo, I mean, which Utsav has made as part of Masari Talkies, he is actually kind of not saying something which I don't know. I mean, this is, I mean, it's one of the 100 stories that we have already known, but it creates an experience. Bheed fails to do that also. I mean, even if this video gets shared with Abhinav, I mean, I don't mind that. But yes, I mean, that's the difference which is actually kind of between political correctness and political consciousness. And I mean, so I mean, it's. I think, I mean, of the films that, I mean, of the pandemic, which I've seen, I mean, be it Bheed or be it Zwigato or Poker Ke Dono Paar, which is also set during the And this one also, and Andaman. I mean, I mean, Andaman and photo really actually kind of stood out for me because of its what's I mean, the way it actually kind of captures the complexity, and it doesn't actually kind of fall into the trap of what's I mean, correctness. Uh, yeah, I mean, these were some of the yeah, I mean, just one thing. I mean, because that question came up. Ramesh sir, I mean, really, I'm really sorry. I mean, I'm being a bit provocative, but I have to do this whenever I get a chance. For me, the question never is actually the can the subaltern speak. For me, the question always is can the subaltern be heard. And somewhere actually, I mean, one of the reasons why actually kind of I like, Utsav's film and Utsav's voice as an artist is because there is that ability to actually kind of hear and actually kind of just trying to amplify that, and that's really really moving for me. So yeah, I mean, these are a few points that I thought I should actually kind of make. I mean, which is already, I have written it. Already, there. But to actually kind of just open up some more actually kind of discussion over here. I mean, the more this film is discussed, the more happy I am, because to me, I mean, this film is really, I mean, an epic film for me. Okay, yeah, thanks. That's all. Thank you for patiently listening to me for so long.
Thank you very much, Samartha. Wonderful, wonderful points. Also read your essay with great interest. Fabian, you've unmuted. You want to come in again?
No, I don't know how to unmute.
Okay, fine.
Mute me.
I will do that. Yeah, sure. Okay, anyone else who wants to come in now? Tarkeshwar, Paniraj sir,
Yeah,
yes, please go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, wow, one point I wanted to make was whether Utsav likes it. Utsav cinema ಅನುಭವಿಸಿದ ಕಷ್ಟ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದಾ?
ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್ ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್.
No, because so now we are celebrating it, but to begin with, Utsav faced a lot of difficulty in making the film to be seen and his voice to be heard, because we were not knowing at all about his film, because not knowing about Utsav, not knowing about the film when it was supposed to be screened at BIFES. Usually, people will advertise about, I mean, at least at BIFES, if it shows to full house, and then people will catch it, okay, something film, and it may get the release and people may go to theater and see it. But Utsav didn't have, I don't know, Utsav didn't have a connect and resources to make it uh, uh, available to others to go and see, make them go and see it there. So what he did was he was circulating to small groups of odd amateurs like me to see that film and at least put some words about this film so that it can attract the crowd at the BIFES. So he sent us the link, and we were already at the Bangalore, and we didn't have a seat on full screen or something. We did view it in mobile phone and put some good words about it, because we wanted to see it in big screen and talk about it. But somehow, by looking at in the mobile itself, I felt it's a cinema to be seen by all. So we did spread some word. So like that, I mean, before it was screened first time at BIFES, we have to do some kind of a PR work. With that, I was thinking whether it will help him or not, but we did do that. And then once the cinema it was screened at BIFES, it got a very lot of good reviews, and then I also wrote for TFO blog about the film, and what is my view on the film. So I don't want to repeat it. So even after that, it was full house. It did had two screens, I think. Because once it was full and second time it was shown. Even after that, he had a difficulty in screening it to the public. So somehow he was planning to take it to some other film festivals, but he didn't have a resource to take it to film festivals. At least 25,000-30,000 he has to pay as an entry fee to film festivals. He didn't have it. And some like-minded film enthusiasts in Bangalore did organize a show by online ticketing. And for that also, they asked her to do a PR, because they can organize that only if 200 tickets are sold. So they did that on Book My Show, and it was daily, the one only 100 over, 150 over. Finally, it got 250 and he was able to get some money to go to international film festival circuit with that film. And then finally, he has to have a big support of Prakash Rai to be screened in public. So it has all the difficulties of an independent Kannada film or independent film for any language that matter, that to be screened and discussed, so that I mean, I don't see that only after be first and then when it was screened public by when it was released with the support of Prakash Rai, that it started getting the reviews in Kannada dialects. So that is the situation in which this film passed through, and I don't know. And even I was poking Utsav at the film festival. Honestly, tell me what is the budget, and he was saying no, that this one. I said but the number he quoted, I said it's impossible, dear. It's not possible. He was laughing at it. No, but many people helped him. Many people. He himself told me that all the post processing work and the camera, since he did work in Kannada film industry for say around 7-8 years with himself. I mean, as assistant actor, as assistant, I mean, technician and all. So the connect he had with the technicians helped him to say kind of a goodwill and a kind of a potential loan that will do it for you. Let's see if you get back. So all for all its technical potential, yeah, the goodwill served him. And the actors, in fact, he had a gem of actors from the theater. Madhav, Gayatri, Akshita, Jangir. No, they are great theater actors who are available for a kind of director like Utsav. I don't know whether how much money they took or they collaborated with him, but they did their part so fine that they fitted their roles. They did what they want to do. So it also added to the success of both the cameraman and the editor, which Utsav will tell you their contribution. Also, the brilliant camera work and brilliant editing, what we are praising now, is also a kind of a kind of things worked out for him, which is very difficult while he made that film. We are happy that all this paid off. The actors, the very seasoned theater actors, his skill, his work, his hard work, his apprentice in Kannada Gandhinagar, and the goodwill he earned with that post processing people. All this worked, and finally, film fell in place. That's one of the thing what I wanted to tell. And the second thing what I want to tell about the discussion about all the things which are political and all. One thing what I noticed in the film is its organic nature. The script is of an organic nature because Utsav knows his village, Utsav knows his people, Utsav knows what Gonavar is. So he not rhetorically add something from outside, from his other knowledge, he need not use it. So it means nothing is extraneous in the film, as Samvarta put it. It may not politically correct, but it's politically consciousness. That political consciousness comes from being organically absorb. I mean, organically knowing his people, knowing his village, and it's simply told from the perspective of the village people and village father, village mother, and village is not kind of a village. What we say, there's no binary between village and urban now, because there's a transition of migration, and the view of urbanity from village and urban people looking towards village, those things are very complicated now, and village people know what is urbanity is. So everything what he in the script contains is very organic, and hence anything which comes within the frame of the script or within the frame of the camera is quite present in any village now. Either the cylinders, we also very talked about, as Murli told, we talked about that, and the social media influence. Everything is glaringly available in any social frame what we have. So, and the ringtone and the particular thing kind of interventions, like when they enter, and of course, the TV and the news which comes on the TV, whether they're rhetorical or which is part of the story, because when you are telling a background of a corona, they become part of the story, and beating of the plates and that kind of things, and the people being prevented from entering the village, all are part of the story of Gonavar, or part of any village. And secondly, whether the kind of say uh, uh, songs which is used, again, as Gonavar said, one of the songs which is again a folkloric song, which is a Tattvapada, which is a place in Gonavar, place like Gonavar in North Karnataka, still that is there in spite of heavy communalization of the villages, which is also integral to the Gonavar or integral to any village in Karnataka. That kind of communal divide and political outlook, and the chest beating politics which comes out even in the villages is part of the story. And hence I felt it that, of course, the last song, what Ramesh told, except that every other thing is politics is written into villages, politics is written into day-to-day lives. Of course, the coastal Karnataka, it's overwritten. I need not say it is written into the life of the people, but it is overwritten into the life of people. And it also marks again, saying that politics has become a fate. 20th century politics has become fate. Now it has become a boring fate for us. Politics, day-to-day life, glaringly and proactively talking about politics, even in the smallest day-to-day quotidian things, politics come out. And the film captures that. And of course, the Vidhan Sauda, that's has been told, that's of course representation of a state and the relation of the state with the citizens. Of course, that's evident in the film. But what I did see, how that political consciousness works is in a Gramscian organic understanding of his community and of his life in the village. That works for Utsav, and that worked for the film, I suppose. But to that particular idea of organic life of his women, to tell the organic life of his village during taking the backdrop of COVID, even if it is not COVID, as Ramesh told, the structural inequities are quite written into the life of the people of, I think, all Indian urban and rural spaces. That's evident. So anybody who wants to tell that story, Samartha has rightly put it, that to be political conscious is to be aware of the organic life of the people. That is the beauty of art. That is the strength of photo. And one more thing, what worries me about is Utsav has done that in his first film, and we'll be having a lot of expectation in his sophomore. So that's one of the difficulties. And first-time director successfully giving us a film like Photo should face. We'll be having a lot of expectation about his sophomore, and that's a challenge for Utsav. And I wish all the best for him. Thank you.
Thank you, Pandraj sir. Yes, Utsav, you've unmuted. You want to speak?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ.
Okay. Shrikant, yes, please go ahead.
Hi. So I just have a few things, not too much. I was just wondering if one had not, say, let's say, as it happens sometimes, we are late, assuming that we will go watch this movie in a theater and we are late and we missed the title card. What would have perhaps been the name of this film? When I watched this film, I was thinking one can also call this film Statistically Zero. So when someone tells a story, the question is also, why was this thing necessary? So the question also interesting, the interesting point that I kind of felt about this film overall is that ultimately the death of Durga is not a COVID event. So in the records, in the statistics, Durga is not a COVID story. So this is something that is at the very larger this thing, something very skillful about this film. And why is this also important for me is because, we've discussed, there is a certain response to state, power structures, all of that. Yes, certainly. But it's also interesting because there is a certain realization where we kind of agree that a head-on collision with center, with state, with power centers is not that easy. If to sound a little unromantic, if I can say, a thing of the past, but what is the way ahead? How does one engage with any authority? So that is through the language of metaphors. That is through such mediums. And therefore, this is a story which does that. And therefore, any attempt to kind of take a stand, because it becomes a very demanding task, challenging task, because the moment there is a desire to make something clear, it will stride towards propaganda. And that is something that is easy to strike down. When the craft lies in the language of metaphors, therefore leading or prompting the audience to come up with a lot of interpretations, a lot of their own, commentaries. The political language will remain strong. So that is something that I wanted to say. And I also wondering about the title. I mean, just to see what is a photo, what is the primary quality of a photo? The primary quality of a photo is stillness. And just as an aside, there's also very I don't know if it's intentional, but it's also a very witty sort of a take. I mean, if you look at the two things that Durga is interested in is not Bangalore, is Vidhan Sauda and D-Boss. So what happens? I mean, D-Boss, his popularity on one side, but what is mainstream cinema doing as well? I remember probably it's a Telugu film or any film for that matter. Bangalore City, any mainstream film, will start with Vidhan Sauda. Mumbai City, Gateway of India. Hyderabad City, Charminar. So here is a film which is telling that there is such a huge Bangalore where to a lot of people, Vidhan Sauda is not even, that easily available. That is not a narrative will begin as if you can take it for granted. And I may not be, very prepared to kind of explain that, but I feel that the D-Boss and the Vidhan Sauda liking are that way interlinked. Seeing someone as a hero through whom you sense the access to something, as someone who is emerging as, to put it in very, naive terms, going back to what Ramesh sir said, for Durgia, D-Boss is the Rajkumar of 2024. So that thing, but there are also certain subtle binaries that kind of may have escaped, or if it's my overreading, that happens in the film too. So, for example, Durga encounters a lie for the first time in the city, because the mother, despite everything, doesn't lie, even when she makes a promise and then she eventually sends him. But a proper deceit or a lie, not just from the father, but also from a stranger, comes to him in the city. So these things. So there is a certain stillness that's very quintessential to the idea of photo. Now, stillness is an order. It's something that cannot change. It's something that is fixed, given. So this also has that very classical sort of a notion of punishment, where someone tries to upset that order, upset that stillness, and is, therefore going towards a certain destiny. So what happens at the end when the mother tears that photo, for me, is a more interesting scene, because the photo managed to come to this house, stay there, but someone from here could never go into a photo which had Vidana Sauda. So there are certain very mm, uh, smart images that are present throughout the film. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank uh, the director, Gonwar, for all of this work. Thank you.
Thanks, Shrikant. Anyone else who would like to come in now? Dakeshwar, yeah, go ahead.
I have nothing to add to the positive factors about the cinema, because everybody has spoken about it. But I was just wondering, people who have spoken uh, seem to have some kind of consensus on what is a good cinema, and the criteria that they invoke to call something as a good cinema. When I'm trying to question the criteria, it doesn't mean that I'm questioning their judgment. I also agree with their judgment that photo is a good cinema. Uh, Accepting the judgment, the conclusion of their thing. But I do have a problem with the criteria of trying not to be politically correct, but politically conscious. And you should not say directly, but you should say metaphorically, that is more politically powerful. Uh, I don't know where these statements are coming from. Uh, is it our own aesthetic sense which is allowing us to make these comments? It looks like a kind of a leave-aside position to me. Uh, that if you speak metaphorically, it is more politically effective. Uh, what is metaphorical, or what is we should not make a direct statement. See, entire language is in that sense is metaphorical. Why are you thinking that there's something called metaphor and something called non-metaphor? Look at the cinema again more carefully. Look at the language being employed. See how the language is changing its connotations. We are not calling it as a kind of state-imposed lockdown. That is the language that you are using. Look at the language that is being used. Janta curfew. What is Janta curfew? It is not state curfew. The language itself is metaphorical there. It speaks something. There's a disconsonant between the what you see as the action and the language with which you describe it, and the new language that is coming in place for you to address the reality. So the dissonance between the language and the way the language is changing, unless we address that, we will not be able to understand the new politics that is shaping up. This whole leave-side position of what is good literature, what is good film, and what should be its quality, and taking that and measuring this film itself is problematic to me. Unless you look at uh, deeply question the aesthetic sense which is ingrained in us, which says that anything direct is problematic. Speak metaphorically. It's also important to ignore it. Metaphors can be interpreted in quite opposite ways. Why are we trying to privilege the metaphor over non-metaphor? I think there's some problem with uh, some of us who are trying to invoke this category and then say everything is fine except the some song at the end. What is wrong? There is a new method that is being employed in this narrative. It is a fiction, but it wants to claim itself to be a document. But along with the document, through the auditory images that come as a kind of parallel to the narrative, which is not actually part of the narrative, but as an aid to narrative, the ringtones, they are making a comment on it. So what is the problem if the chorus, let's say in the old, there's something is happening on the stage, yes, and chorus also makes a comment on it. Whether you agree with it, whether the chorus is making a right comment or a wrong comment, as an audience, you can always judge it. But why should you have a problem with this, but appreciate the other things? I think there's some problem with the our own judgment, not with the film, and the criteria that we're invoking to say that it's a good film. Thank you. Thank you, Gunwar, for the film and sharing generously with us. And also, I thank others for their insightful comments. I'm not, when I'm questioning their criteria, I'm not questioning the things that they have said about the film, especially the way they have interpreted it. But I'm only questioning the kind of uh, lapsing into judging the film based on some criteria. That's all. Otherwise, I do agree with some of the points that others have made. Thank you.
Okay. Any response from anyone? Ramesh, you're also free to, respond if you want to come in at any point. Or if anyone else wants to speak, please go ahead. Yes, Ramesh. Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, I think we heard so little from Utsav himself, so maybe the final word to him. And I really want to also know the making of the film, and so if you can talk about some of that.
Okay, Utsav, over to you.
ಓಕೆ ನನಗೆ ಮೊದಲು ಇವರು ರಮೇಶ್ ಅವರು ಹೇಳ್ದಂಗೆ ನನಗೆ ಗೋನ್ವಾರ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಗೋನ್ವಾರ್ ಬಂದು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ದೂರ ಇರೋ ಊರದು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹೈದರಾಬಾದ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಅನ್ನೋ ಭಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ಆ ಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಊರದು. ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ವಲಸೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಬರೋರು ಬಹುತೇಕ ಕೂಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋರು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋರು. ಆ ಕೆಲ್ಸಕ್ಕೆನೆ ನಾನ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ 80% ಅದೇ ಕೆಲ್ಸಕ್ಕೆನೆ ಬರೋದು. ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗೋ ಕೆಲ್ಸದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಲ್ಲೇ ಇದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ವಲಸೆ ಬರೋರಲ್ಲಿ ಹೈದರಾಬಾದ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಿಂದ ಬರೋ ಜನಗಳು ಮಾಡೋ ಕೆಲ್ಸ ಅದು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಆ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸನ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಗೋನ್ವಾರು ಮತ್ತೆ ಅಥವಾ ಈಗ ರಾಯಚೂರು ಮತ್ತೆ ಧಾರವಾಡಕ್ಕೂ ಇರೋ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಕೂಡ ಅದಿದೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಉತ್ತರ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಅಂತ ನನಗೆ ಸುಮಾರು ಜನ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಉತ್ತರ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಅಂತ ಮಾತುಗಳು ಬಂದಾಗ ನನಗೆ ಇದು ಉತ್ತರ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ನಾವು ಹುಬ್ಬಳ್ಳಿಯಿಂದ ಧಾರವಾಡದಿಂದ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಬರೋ ಕಾರಣಗಳು ಬೇರೆ, ರಾಯಚೂರಿಂದ ಅಥವಾ ಕೊಪ್ಪಳದಿಂದ ಅಥವಾ ಯಾದಗಿರಿಯಿಂದ ಬರೋ ಕಾರಣಗಳು ಬೇರೆ, ಶಾಪೂರು ಈ ಭಾಗದಿಂದ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಬರೋ ಕಾರಣಗಳು ಬೇರೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಹೆಂಗಾಗುತ್ತಂದ್ರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಕೆಲ್ಸ ನಾವ್ ಏನಕ್ ಬರ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಬಂದು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಸಣ್ಣ ಸಣ್ಣ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆಗಳನ್ನ ಪೂರೈಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಅನ್ನೋ ಜಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಜನ ಬರೋದು ನಮ್ ಹೈದರಾಬಾದ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಭಾಗದಿಂದ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಗೋನ್ವಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಆ ಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ತೋರ್ಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ವಿಧಾನಸೌಧದ ಮುಂದೆ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗೆಸ್ಕೊತೀವಿ. ನನಗೂ ಚಿಕ್ಕವನಿದ್ದಾಗಿಂದಾನು ವಿಧಾನಸೌಧದ ಮುಂದೆ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗೆಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂದಾಗ ನನಗೆ ಕನ್ಫರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಅದು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ತರದ್ದು. ಅದು ತುಂಬಾ ಇತ್ತೀಚಿನವರೆಗೂ ಅದಿತ್ತು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಿಧಾನಸೌಧದ ಮುಂದೆ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಯಾರೇ ಹೋಗ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ ಕೆಲ್ಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋದ್ರು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಿಧಾನಸೌಧದ ಮುಂದೆ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗೆಸ್ಕೊ ಬರೋದು ರೂಢಿ ಇದೆ. ಆ ತರದ್ದು ಒಂದು ಊರು ಗೋನ್ವಾರ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಮುಟ್ಟೋದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ವಿಷಯ, ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಬರೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದೇ ದೊಡ್ಡ ವಿಷಯ. ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಪ್ರೌಡ್ ವಿಷಯ. ಅದನ್ನ ತೋರ್ಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ವಿಧಾನಸೌಧದ ಮುಂದೆ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗೆಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಯಾರೋ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ದೂರ ರಾಜಧಾನಿ. ನಮ್ ಕೆಲ್ಸಗಳಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಚೆನ್ನೈಯಿಂದ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಬರೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ತುಂಬಾ ದೂರ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಬರೋದು. ಸೊ ಅಷ್ಟು ದೂರ ಗೋನ್ವಾರ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ. ಅದಾಯ್ತು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು ನಮ್ಗದು ಇನಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಅದೇ ಸರ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ಪಣಿರಾಜ್ ಸರ್ ಹಿಂಗಾಯ್ತು ಸುಮಾರು ವಿಷಯಗಳು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನನ್ಗೆ ಅದೇ ನನ್ನ ಇಡೀ ಟೀಮ್ ಅವರು ತುಂಬಾ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ನಿಂತಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಫೋಟೋ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಆಯ್ತು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಈ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ನನಗೆ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಮಾತುಗಳು ಕೇಳಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನನಗೆ ಅನ್ಸಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಪಾಲಿಟಿಕಲ್ ಸಿನಿಮಾನೇ ಇದು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅದ್ರದ್ದು ನನಗೆ ಕಾನ್ಶಿಯಸ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ನೆಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನನಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಕೇಳ್ತಿರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಅನ್ಸೋದು ಇದು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಪಾಲಿಟಿಕಲ್ ಸಿನಿಮಾ. ಮತ್ತೆ ನಾನು ತುಂಬಾ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿ ನನ್ನ ರಾಜಕೀಯನ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಲೇಬೇಕು. ಆ ಕೆಲಸ ನಾನು ಈ ಸಿನಿಮಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡಿದೀನಿ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾನು ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊತೀನಿ. ಮತ್ ನಾನು ಆ ಕೆಲಸ ಆ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ನನ್ನ ಸಿನಿಮಾಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಮತ್ತ ಆ ಹಾಡು ಅಂತ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ಅದು ನನ್ನ ರಾಜಕೀಯ. ಅದು ನನ್ನ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಹೇಳೋ ರಾಜಕೀಯ ಅದು. ಮತ್ ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ ಇರ್ತೀನಿ. ನನ್ನ ಸಿನಿಮಾನ ನಾನು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಂದು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ನನ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕನ್ಸಿದ್ದೋ ನನ್ನ ವಿಚಾರಗಳೇನೋ, ನನ್ನ ರಾಜಕೀಯ ವಿಚಾರಗಳೇನೋ ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮುಖಾಂತರನೇ ನನ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ ಕಂಫರ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ನಾನು ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ, ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮುಖಾಂತರನೇ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಇಷ್ಟ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕನ್ನಿಸ್ತದೆ.
Okay. Just a quick translation. Utsav says Gonwar is in the Hyderabad, Karnataka region, very, very far. Bangalore is very, very far for people there. And most people who come from there usually are in construction work. And when people say that this is a film set in coming from people coming from Uttar Karnataka or Northern Karnataka, he says that one needs to make a distinction between people who come from Hubli, Dharwad to Karnataka to Bangalore, and those who come from Hyderabad, Karnataka to Bangalore, because those who come from Hyderabad, Karnataka region come mostly as supply labor for Bangalore. Also, he mentioned how for people coming from Gonwar, a photo in front of Vidhan Soda was like the mandatory photograph to be taken when they came to a big city like Bangalore. It was a proud event for them. About the making of the film, he said that it was indeed quite a difficult process, but he had a very supportive team. Regarding his politics, he said that he owns it as a political film, and he would like to express his political stance very clearly. And in a way, the inclusion of the song is also a statement of his politics. So this is what Utsav told us. Any other remarks, comments? Ramesha, your final comments, anything that you want to say before we wind up the discussion?
No, I have said enough. So yeah.
Okay. Anyone else who has not spoken, would you like to speak? Madhurima, Nagargiri Ramesh sir, anything to say, Sridhar? Okay. If there are no more comments and no other interventions, then I think we've had a really wonderful discussion. The film deserves a lengthy, and I think it's been a very, very enriching discussion. Much deserved for this film. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Do join us next Saturday for yet another round of discussion on Talking Films Online. A special thanks to Utsav. Utsav, thank you very much for coming here. As soon as I messaged you, you agreed to make available the film link as well as agreed to be part of this discussion. For film people like you who are busy, I know this is not what you usually do, but thank you really very much for being part of this discussion. Ramesh, thanks for agreeing, first of all, to do this. And for doing such a wonderful job by opening out so many different issues regarding the film. Thank you all once again and have a good weekend. Good night. See you all next Saturday.
Thank you, Ramesha.
Thank you.
Good
Good night.
Utsav.
Good night all. Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone. Thank
Good
you.
night.